What's up, everybody? Hope all is well. I am recording this from the car in the jiu-jitsu parking lot, of course. And I got a good one for you today. I finished a full day of consulting just about an hour ago. And it's my last one for the month of January, where I've done so many of these seemingly. But whenever I do these full days, I love these full days because I get to go super deep inside of a business. It's kind of like I'm, a mechanic, and like we're opening up the hood of the car and I'm like taking everything apart and then putting it back together. That's kind of what it feels like when I get to spend a whole day with a business. It's powerful. And, I learn so much. And usually the people that come, they leave with a lot more clarity, a lot more certainty, and a lot more feeling of having control over their business. And so I love these days. People, they spend a lot of money to do these days, but I do feel that they leave with, well more than their money's worth. And, obviously they always get ideas to make more money and things like that. But the feeling of control and the feeling of certainty and the feeling that, and hope, like it's hard to quantify that. It's hard to put a price tag on that. But I do know that, many people feel that just that alone well outweighs the cost of a day. So what I want to do is kind of shine some light on kind of what I do inside of some of these days, and not to tell you like what the specifics that happen with this business, but really just to kind of give you some insights on the things that I would focus on. So basically, if you were to hire me for a whole day, like what are some things I would do? And it can give you some insights on this call. I don't think it's going to be the same as me doing it with you, but I do think there'll be some things that will help. So again, the number one thing that I go into in these meetings is usually people are booking these meetings and they have hit like a sticking point. So some people that hire me because they're struggling and they can't get past a certain point. Some people are doing really well and they want the next level. They want to know what's next and they need help, figuring that out. But the big thing I give people is I get them to see things more clearly about their business and what they need to do to create a breakthrough. That's really what it's about. It's creating a breakthrough, whether it's breaking through from a sticking point, whether it's breaking through from uncertainty of what's next. That's kind of what I like to try to orchestrate and do my best to try to do that. And again, if you're listening to this, you're probably in one of those camps, right? You may either struggling and not doing as well as you want and want to create a breakthrough, and you may be in a sticking point, or you may be doing well and you want to kind of figure out like what's next. I think, some of these things will help you. One of the first things I like to do is, one of my mentors, Tom Plummer, taught me this, and he taught me that if you don't know what you want, no one can help you. And that is like, if you don't know where you're going, it's really hard because it's like there's a lot of stress that's created from that. There's stress in your own self. There's stress in the team. People can feel it. And it even says it in the Bible, without a vision, people perish, right? So it's an important thing to have. And not a lot of people have a good way of creating a vision, right? They maybe create these, cheesy vision statements or whatever, things like that. And honestly, too, a lot of people don't understand what a vision really is. I mean, a vision is just, a picture of where you want to go. That's all it is. It's not a mission statement. It's a vision is a picture of where you want your business to be. And it's, set somewhere in the future. And so one of the things that, is important is the timeline of it. And, we look at usually creating short-term and long-term visions, right? I always say that sometimes people have a tough time with creating the long-term. Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Like, who the hell knows, right? And if you can't get there, it's good to be able to get there in 5. And if you can't get there, what I do is it's mandatory for me to get you to at least outline a clear picture for where you want to be in 1 year. Like, that's mandatory. You got to be able to do that. And the cool thing is, like, if you have no idea where you want to be in 10 years, but you do know where you want to be in 1, and the next year you know where you want to be in 1, and you string together a bunch of really good years, you're hopefully going to end up in a great place. So that's what I always try to do. And I kind of follow a specific framework and formula for, what to do. And it usually involves, how much money you want to make, how much profit of that is, what are the kind of measurables that we need in terms of like how many customers we need at what price points and things like that. So it's kind of outline, there. And then there's usually some measurable goals that we'll set around those things. So that's all. But it's like very, very granular of where I want a business to be in 1 year and figuring that out. And then the next piece is more of the longer term. Call it 3 years, call it 5 years, call it 10 years, whatever you want it to be. But somewhere is a picture of the future, right? And I really love, whereas the 1 year is very, very, logical and on paper, and it's very like mechanical almost. The bigger long-term stuff is more emotional. It's very, even though it is clear and hopefully somewhat measurable, it's more of created as a story. So that's like, I learned what's called visioning from Ari Weinswick, which is a story that you write about your business and where you want to be. It could also be done with your personal life. And you basically just sit down with a couple like guideposts, and guideposts could be like, what does the business look like? What does the staff look like? What does my time look like? And you have some guideposts that, will help you. But then you basically just start writing, and you write in the present tense, and you create this story. And, whenever you create a story, there's emotion that comes with it. And that's really why vision is so important. Vision is so important to be able to communicate it to your staff. That's why like a vision is so important. It's like, it's one thing for you to help you create the right growth plan, right? Then create the right steps to work towards it. You need that, but it's also like, you're not going to do it alone. You need people to be on the bus with you. And so a vision is something that you want to be able to communicate. And I found that when you create a story, it's like, how do you communicate with your kids? You read them stories, right? That's kind of what, happened growing up. And so the vision story is a really, really a powerful way to do it. So that's kind of one of the first things that we cover is what is the owner, and typically it's the owner, right? What does the owner want? Like, what are they looking for? What are they looking to accomplish? And we get clarity around that. And sometimes we have to workshop it and create it. But it's always a really powerful thing when like you can figure out and decide where you're going, man. It's a beautiful thing. So that's a big component of it. One of the other things we do is I always will evaluate the numbers, like what happened, with the data points, what happened with the numbers. And what I usually will have them do is bring the last 90 days, like what happened with, the financials, what was the profit and loss statements looking like in the last 90 days? What were the scoreboard items like? How many did they hit their lead goal? Did they hit their new client goal? And what was the attrition like, and what was the attendance like, and what was the usage like, and all these different things. And what I try to do is look at the last 90 days, and basically we do a recap of, hey, how did the last quarter go? And that's like, the last quarter, and this is an important point, but the last quarter it's a good snapshot of what's happening. But a lot of people will take like a month and they'll be like, oh my God, last month I lost so many clients. And it's, 1 month is not a trend. So 90 days is a trend. And so we look at 90 days and we look at the data points from 90 days, and then we start to formulate, what are the issues? What are the challenges? What are the things that we're facing? And this is something that, I'll be honest with you, this is something that for way too long I've struggled with personally. And I know a lot of other people do. But like, we get stressed out about problems. And it's like kind of stupid. Like, it's really stupid to get really stressed out about problems, because if you come with the mindset that problems and solving problems are your job, and it's just part of your job description, and they are inevitable, and you're never going to have a business without them, then you can maybe look at them a little differently. It's not this sky is falling thing that, oh, I got this problem. What the hell? It's like, oh, I got this problem. That's normal. Let me solve it. And we get less emotional about it. And again, this is something I'm still personally working on, right? I have to like catch myself and be like, okay, I got this and I got that. And it's like, I'm stressed out about it. It's like, wait, why am I so stressed? Like, why don't I just like settle and just be like, hold on, wait, this is a problem. this is normal. This is my job to solve this problem. If I don't know how to solve it myself, I use my who, not how mentality I learned from Dan Sullivan, right? Or I ask someone on my team, or like, if I can't figure it out myself, or go to ChatGPT. Like, there's so much help out there now, right? But it's like we kill ourselves with like being anxious. And again, I'm like guilty of this, right? But I've been getting better at like catching myself of like, wait a minute, okay, this is my job. My job is to solve this problem. You don't get mad. Like if your job is to train sessions, you're probably not getting mad. I got to train a session, right? And if you are, you're probably like, it's time to retire, right? Or you're getting mad that you have to do this. It's like, no, it's like, that's the job. That's what the job is. So solving problems is the job, right? And so we look at the 90-day world of like what the data points are, because the data is reality. That's an important point to know. The data is reality. This is the truth teller of the business. And it's telling us what are the things that, we need to know. And so like if I do an offsite and they come in and it's like, well, we had a 2% attrition rate. Beautiful. We don't need to even talk about that. You want to create a new onboarding system for new members? No, you're not going to do that because you have a 2% attrition rate. It ain't getting any better. So buddy, that sales conversion problem you got, that's where we're going to focus. That conversion from trial to new member, yeah. That's at 55%, and we need to get it to 70%. That's the focus. That's what we're going to focus on, right? And so it kind of guides you. The data guides you on what problems you need to solve, on what goals you need to set, on what projects need to be worked on. The data tells you that. So that's such an important piece, is to evaluate, the last, 90 days, and also making sure that the data that you're tracking on a regular basis is also set to help you reach your goals, right? So for example, your goals on your weekly scoreboard in terms of how many leads or new customers you're getting need to reflect where you want your business to be in a year. Now, there's some math to that, and I'm not going to go through it today, but just know the numbers on your scoreboard, the numbers like leads, the numbers like trials, the numbers like consultations, the numbers like new clients, the numbers like attrition, right? All of that stuff needs to lead you down the path of where you want to be in a year. And so it's possible that every 90 days you need to look at those numbers to make sure they are up to date and on track. So the numbers is huge, right? It's like we gotta know these data points. And the next piece is, I always focus on in these days is, something called the organizational chart, right? And this is basically like, think of it as like in football, it's like there's the depth chart or the roster or the lineup, right? It's like, all right, who we got? What are the positions? And then who are the people in the positions? This is huge. And this is where like a lot of the stress, it's like one of my great mentors, Mark O'Donnell, said like 80% of business problems are people problems, right? And so a lot of the people problems can be solved with being clear on what are the roles that the company needs, and then who are the right people to put in those roles, and then is there a documented process for their job and how they do their job, and is there success metrics like specific numbers that are helping them to tell them and tell them if they're being successful or not. And all of this can be drawn up on a board. It's like, these boxes on a board, or like we're putting, the head of marketing here and the head of sales here, and then this is the person that's doing that, and they own that result, right? And so we spend a lot of time on the people, putting the right people in the right seats and creating the right structure for the business. It's a really, really important exercise. And I found it's really hard to do on your own. Like I always was very grateful to have Mark, when we did this back in the day with GFP, Mark O'Donnell, doing this stuff with me. And one, not just taught me how to do it, but, it was way more effective when he helped us do it herself. So that's a huge piece of what we do. And a lot of times we'll spend sometimes 2 hours just on the org chart and putting, the boxes on the board and the people in the seats, and then creating goals from there. It's like, this person needs to take over the head trainer role. Okay. What do we need to do to get them ready? We're not just going to give them the job. Just like, hey, you got this new title, head trainer, go get it. No, there needs to be, something put in place for you to lead them, to teach them what they need to do and to troubleshoot with them. You can't just give them a title. It's got to be, something that they're put in, to the seats. That's a really, really important point, and, one of the other things too is we will look at how the team that's coming to see me, usually they come in a team, like the group today there's a team of 3, right? And we'll look at how those people are communicating with each other. What does that look like? Are we doing the things that we need to do from a meeting structure point, right? Are they meeting regularly? Are they meeting on a weekly basis, right? You need to be meeting. Are you following a good meeting structure that's really helpful for you? So communication becomes, super important. So that's something we will look at and evaluate. And, and then the next piece we do is we set some goals, right? We look at, the next 90 days and just like, okay, this is, what we're after. We set our 1 year where we want the business to be in a year. And now it's like, okay, what do we need to do? What do we want to accomplish in the next 90 days, right? And we sit down and put a bunch of stuff on the whiteboard and troubleshoot, and then they leave with what are the things they need to accomplish in the next 90 days, and they leave with clarity around that. So it's a really important piece. And the last part is kind of like going back to the problems thing. The last part is we solve the problems in the business. What are the biggest issues that they're facing that they need help solving, and they need outside voice like mine, to help them, solve it. And that's kind of how, like a rough structure of, what I do with a team that comes in, with me. But hopefully, like listening to all of that, I believe that there's one piece of what I just mentioned, there's one piece of all of that could help you, right? Maybe you have like no vision right now and you have no idea where you're going and you have never even thought about writing it down and you don't, so you could do that. Maybe you have like your numbers are just Greek to you, like you have no idea, about your finances, you have no idea about your data points, you have no idea about your track, you're not looking at it on a regular basis. Maybe that's the area where you need to focus. Maybe you got a bunch of people issues, right? Or maybe you have hires that you need to make that you're not making, or maybe you need to fire people because they're not living your culture, or maybe you're just overloaded and you're in every box of the business, like you're doing everything. You own the marketing, you own the sales, you own the head trainer role, you own the finance, you own everything, and you're getting burned out. And when you see it on the board, you're like, holy shit, I need to get some help here. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you need to address the people issue. Maybe it's communication issue. Maybe you don't have people that you can communicate with on a regular basis. Maybe the people that you are communicating with, it's not happening well. Maybe you're, not meeting regularly and things like that. Or maybe you're not able to identify what are the big problems and you need to work there. So of all the stuff I talked about, there's probably one thing that you could pull and be like, that's an area of focus for me. That's a weak point of mine, and I can buckle down and I can, either try to work on my own, or I could get some help and get coaching and, get a mentor to help me, work through some of these things. So that's kind of it. So what I tried to do is kind of give you the framework of what I would do with someone for a full day to look at their business under the hood. But then, I gave you the components of it, and it's up to you. It's obviously not as good as coming in for a day with me, but I gave you the components of like, all right, which one is your struggle? Like, what's the struggle area? And again, I work with only gyms, right? But, this is true for any business. Like any business owner listening to this could benefit from, an exercise like this. It's not a gym owner thing. It's just a business thing in general. So hopefully this was helpful and you got, at least one nugget from it. And I want you to understand that getting outside of your business and the four walls of your gym is so important. Like there are things that you are not seeing and decisions you're not making because you're stuck inside the four walls of your gym all the time and you're not seeing things clearly. And sometimes some of the biggest breakthroughs happen when you get outside your four walls, when you get some time, when you drive away, when you get on a plane or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why I do masterminds, right? And that's why I like, this one coming up in Orlando is super exciting because it's going to give people that opportunity, to get away, to get outside of their four walls and get in an environment where they're around other people, where they're motivated by people that are being successful, where they're getting different ideas, they're getting different perspectives, they're talking about the challenges, and they're learning new things. And that's why I like these events. That's why I put on these events. I put on these events because of that. And I just think it's such an effective way to get clarity, to get certainty, and to get more control over your business, because sometimes just staying and put and hunkering down inside of your gym, there's things you don't see. It's just like, even when I just go for a walk, like, it's amazing what happens when I just go for a walk. When I get outside and I go for a walk, like, my mind is just in a different place versus when I'm in the office working. And so sometimes these events can provide that experience for you. So if you're thinking about coming to the Gympranos on February 27th, 28th, and March 1st, you should come for the content, right? You should come because you're going to learn a lot of really good things about finance, but you're going to learn a lot of things about marketing and what's working well in marketing. You're going to learn a lot about leadership and building a team and all of that. You're going to learn all that stuff, but you should come to get outside of your four walls, to start getting into a part of your brain where you don't normally get to start getting ideas from other people that you don't normally speak to start meeting people that you could create relationships with that could become friends of yours and also industry colleagues that you could communicate with on a regular basis. And then you won't feel so alone. Some of you are so alone right now, and it's causing you so much stress because there's only one voice in your conversations. And that's the voice inside your head. And what you need to do is you need to get other voices. You need to get people with outside perspectives, people that, maybe aren't emotionally attached to your business. Like the business I had today, like, I'm not emotionally attached to that business by any means, right? I want them to succeed. I want them to grow, but I'm not emotionally attached. So when I tell them to go raise their prices and he gets all anxious about it and be like, oh my God, what would this person, I have zero emotional attachment to it. I just know what's best for the business. So that's the decision I make. And so what happens is you get around people that have that same perspective. They care about your business. They care, but they're not emotionally attached. And when you're emotionally attached, a lot of times you make bad decisions. And you are emotionally attached to your business, just like I am emotionally attached to mine. And I have to create environments and circumstances that help me get away from that. So that's why I want you to come to Gympranos. Other than you'll see me as Vinny Soprano getting up there, which will be amazing and fun, and it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a lot of fun. But there's a whole page that's got all the info. If you go to gympranos.com, you can get the info. If you go, there's a link in the show notes. You can click that link as well in the show notes. But it's going to be a really, really awesome event. I'm super excited about it. But honestly, like, these things are important. Like, these things are, and if you don't come to mine, go to someone else's. Like, but events are good. And again, even if it's just a seminar where you're learning new stuff, the act of going to it, the being in the hotel and getting on the plane and getting in a different place and different environment is really, really effective. And I'm advising you to do it. I'm advising you to either come to our event or get to someone else's, whatever. I hope you come to ours. But it's a really, really way. And it's one of the things EOS talks about. This is like clarity breaks, right? Having, it's one of the biggest things a leader can do is get outside their four walls and get a break. You have a break, take a break, let your mind heal, and then that'll help you make some better decisions. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you join us, gympranos.com, or click the link in the show notes, and I will see you soon. Peace. Big news, everyone. My new book is out. It's titled The 8 Profit Levers for Gym Owners. This is the cash surge system that takes struggling gyms that are going from 0 to 25K per month to 25 to 50K per month. So if that is you and you're looking for the 8 things that you need to do to get your business to the next level, definitely get a copy of this book. And even better, I'm going to give you one for free. If you go to 8profitlevers.com, you can get a free copy right there. Peace.